Hello and welcome to the channel. Got my boy LA with me from Garage 3000. And after I did my Exway Flex and Backfire Zealot reviews, I got a lot of direct messages from people who said, look, my board is making a sound. What is the issue? A lot of times it's a rock or a pebble stuck in the belt or the drivetrain system. So that's what we're going to discuss today, and then also show you guys how to tighten up your belt and tighten the screws, because those can be problematic as well. So let's get into it. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to discuss some of the common issues that may make your belt drive make noise. Now, in order to do this, you need a couple of different tools. You need your Allen keys. And then right here, I have a really large set of Allen keys because I have so many boards and I don't have time to remember this Allen key fits this board or whatever the case may be. So you need your Allen keys, and then you also need your Loctite. And they have different types of Loctite. So they have the removable kind, which is the 242. And then they also have the 243, which is the medium strength. Then of course you'll need your skate tool as well, and you'll be ready to go. So the first thing that you probably want to do is to go ahead and take off the motor cover. So I'm just going to use my Allen key, and you just simply come in here and unscrew this. And that comes right off, and it's right there. It's very easy. You just use the Allen key to screw those off. And from that point, you'll start to be able to see a little bit of the internals. And the next step would be to then go ahead and take your skate tool and take off the wheel. And the thing is really important is when you do this, try not to lose your washers and things like that. So go ahead and take off the wheel, and you'll sit that there. And this is what you're left with, the final product, so to speak. And now this is when we can actually see how the internals look, and when you move it and you turn it, you can see what actually moves the board. Now this is where we can start to see what's going on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and take off the pulley, and you do that by simply turning and pulling. And when you look at that, this is where the culprits are going to be normally. If you hear a noise, there may be some debris stuck inside of your pulley. And actually the other day I had a small piece of debris, and I just used my knife and I pulled it out. So that's one of the culprits of where you may hear noise. So definitely want to check your pulley. Another thing that could be a culprit of that noise is the actual belt itself. And sometimes debris and rocks and pebbles actually get in the grooves of the belt itself. So you definitely want to check that as well. And if that's clean and clear, then you know that the other issue may be some of your bolts that you have in here. And all of these are relatively tight. But this metal pulley here is often a culprit. And if you look very closely, there is a very, very, very tiny screw that's on the inside of this thing. And if that screw loosens up, then this metal pulley, when you pull on it, it will make a rattling sound. Mine's is incredibly tight because I Loctite it to make sure it wouldn't come off, and I'm not going to take it off. But if you're having that issue, you would just take a very small Allen key that fits it, go in there, turn it, remove the small screw, and then you would want to put some Loctite on there. But it's important, put the Loctite that is removable. The one is not so strong, because you don't want to put the highest grade of Loctite in there and then you'll never be able to get the small screw out. So you want to make sure that you use the removable Loctite, put that on that small screw. So now that we're done and we've checked our screws, we've checked to make sure that there's no debris in our pulley, we're actually ready to go to assemble everything back in place. And it's a relatively easy process. What I normally do is go ahead and put your belt on, and then turn the board kind of sideways like this, and then you want to go ahead and put your pulley on. So when you put the pulley on, of course it's not going to automatically fit. So what you do is you kind of open the belt as much as you can, and then you just kind of rotate the pulley and the belt at the same time. And as you turn it, you'll notice that the pulley starts to find its way back into the groove. And you just simply push down, push a little pressure, and she's back in place. Make sure you put your washer in place, and it's that easy. And we're ready to put our wheel back on. Now this is something that you want to make sure you pay close attention to. When you get ready to put your wheel back on, make sure you have your washers in place. So I'm going to put that washer back. When you get ready to put the wheel back on, some board companies and some wheels, they have a spacer on the inside of the wheel. And that spacer moves around. So you want to make sure that that spacer is lined up neatly in the middle so you can actually put the wheel on. Right here with the Flex, the spacer is actually not moving. So that's not an issue. I can simply just put it back in place and push the wheel on. And it actually went right in place very easily. So then at that point, go ahead and put your other washer on and screw the wheel down. And you just simply put that down. And I'm going to tighten that down a little bit more in a second. So now it's time to actually put my motor cover back on there. And what I think I'm going to do is put the removable, the lighter grade Loctite on here, because I think before I put the medium strength on here, so that might be why it's not coming all the way out. But it's no big deal. I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit on the edge here, and then we should be good to go. So I'm going to get my Loctite out, put the removable 242 Loctite on here, and I'm going to just put a small dab this time. I think last time I did it, I put too much. And then go ahead and line up the motor cover. Line it up in place, and then just lock the screws back in place. And you want to make sure you do top and bottom, and make sure you take your time. Don't tighten one side too tight. Kind of try to alternate up and down. And now everything is in place now, and make sure you go ahead and tighten your wheel down accordingly. Make sure you tighten it down to the right torque or specification so your wheel isn't coming off while you're riding. And then with the Loctite, I'll try to let it sit for a little bit before I ride it. I don't know, an hour, 2 hours or something like that. I don't know if there's a specific time frame, but I try to give it time for it to dry up really well. So I'm gonna just turn the board on and make sure that everything is working correctly, and we should be good to go. One thing I love about the Exway, just turn on the remote, board comes on, all that good stuff. And she's looking good. She's rolling and she's looking good. And you don't hear any rattling or any noise like that. So those are oftentimes the common culprits when you talk about why is my belt drive system rattling or making a noise. So I hope the video was helpful to you guys. And this is something that is helpful for almost any belt drive system. So when you talk about the Flex or the Zealot or a boosted board or an onboard W2 or a Vestar Board Night Fury, all of these belt drive boards have very similar looking components. So what we talked about is transferable to those other boards as well. So I hope it was helpful. And as always, I'll see you at the top because the bottom is too crowded. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Peace. Garage 3000. I got a lot of direct. So from Garage 3000?
Yeah.
What'd I say?
With Garage 3000.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the channel. Got my boy LA with me with Garage 3000. Did I mess up? Or from? Oh. I'll put this at the end of the video.